Hello and welcome back to another conversation about the Pisces North Node. And I say another conversation because down in the description you'll see a playlist that has all my content on the Pisces North Node. And if you scroll a little further, there's actually one playlist per natal North Node. And so I've done lots of different conversations about applying this idea of the destiny point, the North Node, and the karma, the South Node, and all the different ways that we can look at each of the 12 zodiac archetypes through that lens of both soul growth and the South, like being the North Node end, and the South Node end being the mastery point. You know, like you're almost just a little too good at that, if anything. So like take a little bit of focus off of it and just get some balance, you know, and you're still really good at that thing. And so specifically, even just a few years ago when I started making content on the North Node, South Node, I was already looking forward to the transit of the North Node going through Pisces, which I knew would be coming right up. And that is because I am a natal Pisces North Node, Virgo South Node. My Pisces North Node is in the 12th house, and already, right, the North Node entered Pisces back in January of 2025 and will be there through July of 2026. And already it has been a life-changing period of time for me personally. And I would love to hear down in the comments, if you feel comfortable sharing, how impactful these last few months have been for you. Because, and especially if you are a Pisces North Node, like you're having your nodal return at some point during these 18 months, maybe you had yours already. Or maybe you're a Virgo North Node with your South Node in Pisces. And so you're having your cross nodal return. So, I mean, depending on how personally this energy is activated in your chart, like we all have Pisces Virgo energy, but some of us are using it more prominently than others. And there's no right or wrong. There's just an infinite set of combinations of the ways that source energy can extend itself into the physical and take up space as a human, and to do that in another way and another way and another way and another way. So like, yes, the building blocks are the same, but we all put them together in a very unique way. And so to have a personal relationship with Virgo and Pisces energy, I'm biased obviously because I have it activated in my chart. The South Node in Virgo, also Lilith in Virgo, and North Node and my Mars in Pisces. And so this combination of Virgo and Pisces to me is a lot about being connected to the love of the divine, Pisces, and showing up in the physical world in a tangible way to offer yourself to make a contribution that improves the quality of the lives of the people around you, Virgo. So like you care and you act on it. Like, again, I'm totally biased, but like that's a beautiful freaking thing. And I could tell a beautiful story about any of the zodiac combinations, like any of the sets of sister signs. But Virgo and Pisces is a lot about like doing what you can to take care of the all, to show up and be what you can be. And that is such a beautiful thing. And nothing in the 3D is all light. Okay, like there's a shadow side and a light side to being of service. And one of the shadows, like by no means the only one, but one of the shadows that personally I've been really relating to recently when it comes to the Virgo South Node is around, where is your service coming from? What is the intention of it? And that is a deep, internal, self-reflective kind of question that, isn't something that we're going to answer one time. It's like every single time you're of service, there's a potential that the motivation for doing that is coming from a different place. You likely have many sources of motivation when it comes to why you act in ways of service in some situations compared to others. So like humans are very multifaceted creatures. So like really only you can answer the question in any given moment. Like, am I giving from a place of truly having an overflow that, I have it to give. I have something and I can be generous with it because I can spare it and they need it more than I do. And so I give it to them, and that kind of sharing, there's something like in the fabric of our soul. Like there's like divine love that just is that sharing. So like being of service and getting to show up and share what you have in a meaningful way, like there's not much soul candy in this life that's better than that. Again, I am so biased, and so take it all with a grain of salt, run it through your own system. But the shadow of that giving is like when you're doing it from a place of proving and striving and wanting to be accepted and validated by other people, like feeling like, one way to say it is like kind of feeling like you've got a second class ticket. Like you're here to work. You're here to like take care of the other ones who are here to enjoy themselves. Like you're staff, okay? And that's me speaking from personal experience. And that's a kind way of saying it. Because in a darker frequency, like if we want to dive into the shadow side or even just dip in on that for just a second, it's like we're talking like slave energy of like your worth, your value is tied up in what you do. And like that mentality, that belief system, that runs rampant in a lot of cultures worldwide. Like we're defined by our actions. We're defined by our behavior. And when I say defined, I'm talking like put into boxes, categorized. We get to make assumptions about you because we saw what you did. Like now we know who you are. And like, is that true? Because I don't think so. Whatever. That's just my opinion. But like, I don't think so. I think like we're talking who you really are. Like we're back on the Pisces end of like divine love. Like you are the divine. Your soul is made of love and it came here to have an experience. And being a human is freaking hard. Like I don't think, I think we're beginning to scratch the surface of the kind of compassion that belongs to all of us as far as like surviving the density of this planet. Like there is so much heaviness here. There is so much tangible expression of the darkness. It's compelling. It's loud. It's provoking our primal fear response. It's compelling, like biologically compelling, that we get bogged down in the density of this planet. Like it's good for our survival rate that we do it that way. And that's just the starting point. Like that's just so you can learn to survive on this planet, which is necessary. If you hope to stick around, you better learn to survive. So that's step number 1. Okay. But then at some point, it's like, are you ready to move into thriving? Like, are you interested in what it looks like to live a life that reflects the deepest layers of who you really are? Like, layers so deep that, like, that I haven't even touched that yet. Like, I can't even imagine what it is. But do I want her life? Yes. Yes, because of what I believe about the nature of who I am, and that extends to the nature of who I believe we all are. In my reality, at least, the way I've set it up, for me to get to live in this world, for me to want to be here, for me to get to stick around long enough to learn how to thrive, to extend my comfort zone beyond surviving into thriving, like one little stretch at a time, to prioritize thriving 1% more, which is to say prioritizing how, like, to care about how you feel and to tend to your frequency, to tend to how you feel as best you can, as often as you can. And perfection is one of the shadows of the Virgo South Node that really adds some texture to the journey, okay? Because without that, we'd shoot right over there, okay? But that Virgo South Node end is really, 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 like, painfully self-aware, okay? Like so self-aware you're depressed because you can see it and it's not good. That judgment of not good enough. And, as always, I can't not point out the silver lining, which is, like, perfectionism. If you can be disappointed or sad or frustrated by the gap, that is, like, leading one to struggle with perfectionism. Like, if you can see the gap, that means you can see the potential, right? Like, it's the people who can't see the potential of how good it could be. They're not perfectionists because they don't see the potential. They don't see how it could be any better. And so there's no gap and they're not frustrated. Like, when you are in that moment of being frustrated by the gap, like, the perfectionism is kicking in and I can't do it good enough, or I'm not good enough at this, or I'll never be good enough, or I'll, like, the vision I see in my head, like, I can't make it a reality. And, one way to look at it, like, one way to go about it is to, like, make peace with that. Like, just, it's not gonna be perfect, and that's not the point. When we struggle with perfectionism, when we struggle to show up because we can't do it perfectly, we're valuing perfection. We're valuing an illusion. We're holding a standard that, like, literally doesn't exist. And that's setting yourself up for failure before you ever get started. And I am, in this moment, like, really talking to myself, because these last few months have been a combination of a lot of things, a lot of factors that have led me to reconfigure a lot of things in my life and my priorities and how I choose to spend my time and what I'm focusing on, what I'm scooping off the buffet on a daily basis, like, what I'm choosing. Like, a lot has shifted. A lot doesn't look the same. Like, as my friend Laura put it, like, the shape of my day has changed, and it's been a whirlwind of stepping into the unknown. And I've been pretty much completely peaceful with the things that were deprioritized in that transition process. Like, for example, recording content for my YouTube channel. Like, this is the first video that I've sat down to record in, like, months. And those months freaking flew by, let me tell you. Like, yeah. And in these last few weeks, I have been feeling pulled back to, like, I want to record, like I want to sit down and I want to have that space, and I want to say things, and I want to make a video, and I want to put it out there, and I want to make another video, and I want to make this video, and I'm like starting to have like ideas, and that magnetism is returning, and things that I want to talk about, and so many things that I want to talk about, that the perfectionism kicks in, the feeling of like wanting to get it right and wanting to do it right, and like how to approach just the infinite creative choice that there is in expressing oneself. You know, like I want to talk about gene keys. I want to talk about the Virgo South Node, Pisces North Node. Like I want to just kind of just hang out with them and just talk to them for a little bit and just show up. And like, but do I have anything to say? Like, do I have anything good enough to say to warrant opening my mouth and using my voice? Like, what could I possibly say that would be worth their time? Like, that voice is in there that's like, you're not ready yet. Like, you have too many ideas. Like, you don't know what you want to say about any of these things. Like, you just keep coming up with ideas. Like, so it's been a few weeks of like kind of feeling that atmosphere again of like the getting started part being the hardest part. And I'm glad for that lap around the mountain, because typically getting started is not the hard part for me. But this few weeks of feeling that resistance, like it's definitely reminding me back to like when I started podcasting initially and how long I put it off. And there's something that, like, you know, like in any given moment, we are never going to be able to create our creative vision. Like, you don't ever get to make the vision. Like, and it sounds pessimistic, but I promise you it's not, because there's freedom in this. Okay. When we have a vision in our mind, okay, and this is like one of my favorite things to do, is like cast a picture of the future, imagine it into being. I feel like it like blooms up out of my heart and it shows me this picture of the future of like what could exist. And then I have a belief structure around that says that, like, if I can imagine it, then it's real. If I can see it, then it already exists. It's already done. And then, okay, so here's my creative vision. I believe it's done. I believe it exists. I believe there's a timeline that has that experience on it. And then there's like a very natural next question of like, okay, so how do I get on that timeline? Right? And so that's the part where like, okay, so now we're creating the vision, but creating the vision is a series of thousands of steps. Okay. It's a series of thousands of choices that will either lead you onto the timeline that has the experience that you saw, or the choices, the steps that you take, they will lead you into other timelines that have different experiences. And so we don't really create the vision. We don't really make that happen. We choose our way into alignment with the frequency of it. We choose our way onto that timeline by pulling the feeling of our vision into our now moment. Okay. And that is the gift of the vision, is that it's a container of energy that contains the feeling of your future. What does it feel like there? Okay. One of the coolest things I've ever manifested is the person I'm in relationship with right now, and how back at the end of 2022, I had some dream experiences where I rendezvoused with a soul and felt a level of safety that I had never physically felt before. And the first time it happened, I woke up and I was like, well, that's not real. You know, obviously, like, just it kind of pissed me off, like, just because there's now such a gap between I've never felt anything like that in my physical experience. And like, here I am in my dream experiencing it. And the gap was like really irritating. And so that was my whole reaction. Well, then it happened about 6 or 7 more times. And by the end of all of that, I had a creative vision. I had a feeling of a future of like this safety between two people that I may not have ever lived anything like that, but I have been there. Okay. And I went there in my sleep. Thank you so much for the infinite mystery that it is to dream. And thank you for letting me bring that feeling into my body in those 6 or 7 dream experiences so that I could hold the vision, which is to say, keep a connection with the feeling of that future, the feeling of that safety. Like, what would that feel like in my body? What would it feel like in my body to know that the person in front of me like accepts me fully? What would that feel like? And to give myself the benefit of that reality now, you know? And that's just one example, because you can do this with any challenge you ever face, as far as like casting a vision of your preferred future and getting a whiff of the feeling of it, and then giving yourself that feeling right now, because that's you choosing your way onto that timeline, where if you will give yourself that feeling right now, that is like you declaring to the universe, I live here now. It's like you changing your address. And again, I want to reiterate that like, I'm not even like a fraction of perfect at any of this. And often, like, one of my favorite things is that I do understand stuff like mentally, like real quick. And so like, then I repeat it, then I say things and I add my own flavor to it, and I spread this information. And what ends up happening, which is like one of my favorite things, is that the people who listen to me talk often will go and implement the knowledge, like the wisdom of like what I'm sharing. They implement it better than I do. And then watching them implement it, I'm like, oh, so that's how you do that? Wait, so when they said that, you said, oh my gosh, yes. And now they're teaching me like how to implement the things that I shared with them. And so like, it's just this beautiful synastry of like, who's really receiving here? You know? And like, when I show up and when I face this resistance around me of like, in my own self, by the way, like, I'm not even projecting this onto anybody. I'm just like in my own mind, like judging, do I really have something worthwhile to say? You know? And that I've come down multiple times in the last like week, especially like where I was like really feeling the pull of like sit down and record a video, and then I didn't. And then I felt it again, and then I didn't. And it was a lot, because like, you don't even have a point. Like, what even is your point? Like, you don't have anything that's just of value, like if you just show up. Like, and today those scales tipped, and like, I felt like it was really important to just show up and say some stuff and call it a day, you know, like that it didn't even really matter what exactly I said, that like the most important thing that I could do is just show up. And so I was like, well, you know what, let's give that a try. Because when I just don't sit down and record a video, then I don't get to record a video. And I find that to be a really fun experience. I find it to be a really energizing experience. So like, how about I just do that, and the outcome and like the perfection of what it is that I'm actually doing and providing, like the quality of it and the way I measure the quality of it is part of what has been reconfigured. You know, like I feel like being able to say that showing up is the most important part, like I probably could have said that a year ago, but today I feel like I actually have that more embodied, of like literally walking into the unknown naked and trusting that you're gonna figure it out, you know, like to go with the flow and to swim in whatever pathway there is to swim in, and that hitting this bullseye of perfection is like just never, I don't even necessarily want to say never, you know, like it's usually not necessary. It's usually not necessary. It's like we can't see ourselves clearly anyway, okay, number one, and neither can anybody else because I'm looking at me through all my filters of shit and you're looking at me through all your filters of shit. And so like nobody is seeing the real me. The real me is something I feel. And that is something that like when I show up and I make a video, like I feel more like the real me. Like I feel like that like buzz of energy at the core of me, like it gets bigger and it gets like more expansive and it comes more to life. And so what is your measure of success? Because I could judge the verbal content of the video and like demand excellence in the point that I'm making, or I can show up and through what I'm doing bring myself more to life in front of a camera, you know? And is there a right way? I don't think so. Okay, it's just a matter of like, how do you feel? Because our feelings, our intuition, that's an inbox. That's an inbox of your own personal guidance and wisdom. And it's meant to design your life to be good for you. Because when you thrive, you are part of an ecosystem that helps other people to thrive. So like you're thriving, like transcending, surviving, and moving into like a version of you who has its needs so fully met that you are blooming like you've never seen before and emitting this fragrance, this heavenly fragrance that other people are gathering around because, oh my God, you smell so good. And like, how is all of that happening? How is all of that enjoyment and richness of life happening? Because your needs are more met than they have ever been before, right? Thriving. It's about being curious and taking care of yourself for your own highest good and recognizing the interconnectedness of all things, that like really like my highest good is your highest good. Like it serves us both equally that I bring myself to life. And this is part of that shift of, you know, the old paradigm of more like codependency where I can't be okay if you're not okay. So like, I'm going to take care of you so that when you're okay, I can rest and relax and then I can be okay because you're okay. You know, like that is kind of on its way out. And there's like very much an overlap where like on its way in is when I am thriving, I support your thriving. And when you are thriving, you support my thriving. And like, we are all responsible, divinely responsible for our own health and well-being, and we all contribute to this ecosystem, which also contributes to us. It's interrelated, right? Like mushrooms under the surface, like under the bed of the forest of like, it's all connected, right? And the health of any one could affect the entire system. And so minding our own health and well-being is like minding our own frequency is one of the most important things we can do. And there's all kinds of ways that we can get distracted and get kind of sucked into a loop down towards a lower frequency where we feel worse and worse and worse. Like when we're judging ourselves as far as like not being good enough or not having something important enough to say. So you don't get to say, like, there's all kinds of ways where we cut ourselves off from our natural flow, and for all kinds of, you know, survival-based reasons, okay? And part of this transcendence into thriving is about learning to wrap your fear in your faith, which is not to say that the fear goes anywhere, okay? But that your faith in your ultimate safety and well-being is flowing through your soul. is flowing through your connection to the infinite, the all source energy, to God that we all are. Like that's where your security lives, and putting your roots down into your own soul such that your tree can withstand anything that the 3D physical experience has to throw at it. Like life's job, the 3D's job, is to shake you. Okay? Like you're gonna get shook. And how deep are your roots? Okay? Because in the 3D, a beautiful mantra to keep a hold of is to control your controllables. Our energy is finite. We only have so many minutes in a day. Control your controllables. Spend your energy on purpose towards things that matter, that things that you can actually influence the outcomes of, which is again to say, like, pour into yourself or water and nurture the relationships where you have consent to do that, where that's welcome and celebrated. Like, be mindful and on purpose with how you spend your energy. And when we will invest into our own health, it's like the interconnected mushrooms under the surface of the soil. Like, we pour into one being and it floods health into the entire ecosystem. So all of that to say that, like, your personal well-being matters a lot. The health and vitality of you individually matters a lot. And anything that you are already doing, because I know that you are, to invest in your personal health and well-being, like, may I just say, on behalf of the interconnected all, thank you so much for flooding the system with that loving attention through the port that is you. Thank you for doing that. It's felt, it matters, it ripples in ways that you can't even begin to imagine, that you don't really need to understand, like, just do your best and trust that that's enough, right? Wrap your fear in your faith and trust that you're always enough, that really, like, you're always the perfect amount. There is perfection in this reality, and it's hiding in plain sight. It's always what is. That is always what is perfect, is what is. And that is a very tough generalization to digest. And I understand that, and that's okay. But we can wrap it in our faith of it is always working out. Always. You are always enough. And sometimes our ability to see the potential in things will trick us into believing that we fell short somehow. But that's not what seeing potential is for. Potential is for manifesting in the future. Seeing potential in a moment is getting to see the future. But the nature of the future is that it isn't right now. So to make peace with the potential that you can see, the beautiful information then that you have to cast the pictures of the future, to look into the timelines that you have access to. If you can see it, then it's real. You can choose your way onto that timeline, and you do that by giving yourself that feeling in this moment right now. There's almost like a little bit of pretending, like our inner child really loves that part of, like, pretend like that future is right now, and just, there's a version of you who knows how to do what it is that you need to do. Ask them, pull them into your now moment, and be them as best you can, as imperfectly perfect as you can. Because whatever way you show up while you're reaching for your own expansion is always exactly perfect. It's always enough. It's always exactly the right amount. If there's anything missing, as far as, like, you feel like you let someone down, like you should have been more, if you could have been more, then they would have had a better outcome. Like, they weren't supposed to have a different outcome. They needed the outcome that they had. And in being a part of that experience with them, you got to witness your own potential. You got to see the direction of your own growth that your heart was requesting. And that's a beautiful thing, because you leaned in that direction and you became more. And the next time you ran into a situation, most likely you were able to show up as more. And most likely, if you're a potential seer, you also saw how you could have done it better, and you saw the next little bit of growth that your heart was requesting. And it's always both of those. We're witnessing our growth and we're looking towards the future of what are we aiming toward? The dream that we're dreaming, the vision of the feeling of something more transcendently beautiful than you've ever felt in your physical life. How high can you reach? And if even you want to invite your dream space to show you, I believe that when we are ready, the universe answers. And so an active, open question of, I want to see, will you please show me? If you mean that, then the answer is yes. So if you want to see your highest possible timeline, what is the most reachable ecstasy from where you are right now, ask, and it will be shown to you. And then you will have the feeling of that to pull into your now moment as often as you can. And that is how you move yourself onto the timeline where that is your life. If you can see it, it is done. If you've enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you take a second and click the like button. Leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear what your aha moment was, or what impacted you most. Really anything that you feel like sharing, I would really love to hear it. I do appreciate that. And subscribe for more content. Check out those playlists in the description for more North Node content if you're interested in diving back into that. Until next time, I do hope that you'll take really, really good care of yourself, the extension of source energy that you are, and so will I.